Joining us now on the Sunrise Morning Show is Endy Zemenides. He's executive director of the Hellenic American Leadership Council, which works closely with In Defense of Christians. Endy, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Annie.
Now, can you tell us just a little bit about your organization to start us off?
So our organization is a national Greek American organization that's a public education and advocacy organization. We focus mostly on issues in the Eastern Mediterranean. Some of them are bilateral issues, the strong U.S.-Greece relationship, which is the strongest it's been in our lifetime, but also very much the protection of religious minorities in the Middle East. This is Christianity, and not only in the Middle East, in the Eastern Mediterranean, that is. This is where Christianity was born, and it's where it's facing some of its greatest challenges today.
Yeah. So to that end, May 19th is Pontian Genocide Remembrance Day. What is the Pontian Genocide?
So it's actually the biggest phase of the Greek genocide. We just had the long overdue recognition by the White House of the Armenian genocide. And together, and I hope your listeners bear with me because there were so many phases of this. There's an excellent book by two Israeli scholars called The 30-Year Genocide. And this is really part of it. And the Greek genocide, the Armenian genocide, and the Assyrian genocide during, at the hands of the Ottoman Empire and the early Turkish Republic, wiped out over 2 million Christians. Think about this. At the turn from the 19th century to the 20th century, Christians made up 20% of Turkey's population. At the end of that 30-year period, by 1924, they were down to 2%. And what we commemorate tomorrow is the biggest phase of the Greek genocide, which happened in the Pondos region, which is the Greek word for the Black Sea region. And in 1919, they started a genocide that, in effect, wiped out, that killed half of that population, the Greek population in that region. And at the end of, again, that genocide period, the rest would be uprooted. So not only were 2.5 million Christians killed during that time, millions more were uprooted and sent to Greece, to Syria, to Iran, elsewhere.
Well, thanks to the advocacy of In Defense of Christians, Sunrise Morning Show listeners are quite familiar with the Armenian genocide and have heard quite a bit about Turkey still denying that it was, in fact, a genocide. Does Turkey acknowledge the Pontian genocide, or is this lumped in with the Armenians as well?
Oh, no, they're actually even more. This one, they make it even an issue with countries like their neighbor Greece. Again, the Pontians were Greeks. The ones that were uprooted ended up in Greece. So when Greece recognizes the Pontian and the Greek genocides, they go crazy. They lecture Greek officials. They push back on the Greek Church's recognition. They deny it. Turkey, across the board on their Christian genocides, just claim that they were the result of turmoil during the First World War. They've used every tactic from blaming the victim to just saying it was an unfortunate byproduct of fighting during World War I. This denial is absurd, and frankly, as the scholars pointed out in the 30-year genocide, it prevents Turkey from really normalizing, entering a normal community of nations. Germany acknowledged the Holocaust. That's how it repaired itself, and Turkey must go through the same.
Has it been an uphill battle for you to get this genocide recognized internationally?
So in the scholarly community, right, the International Association of Genocide Scholars has recognized it. There's plenty of scholarship in there, and kind of what hurts as an American in terms of getting it recognized politically here is that the best eyewitness accounts were American diplomats. Yeah. Just like the Armenian genocide. Ambassador Morgenthau, you have quotes, you have his own writings, not only acknowledging this, but pointing out that this is what happened. In his own writings, he says the Armenian people are not the only subject people in Turkey which have suffered from this policy of making Turkey exclusively the country of the Turks. The story which I have told about the Armenians, I could also tell with certain modifications about the Greeks and Assyrians. Indeed, the Greeks were the first victims of the nationalizing idea. Wow. George Horton, who was a U.S. Consul General in the Near East, he wrote about the burning of Smyrna, which was yet another phase of the Greek genocide. Smyrna was this jewel of a city with a tremendous diversity, but very much a very strong Greek presence. And the Turks and Ataturk burned it to the ground, threw Greeks into the sea, raped Greek women. It has been an uphill battle because political expediency has overtaken the historical truths. But it's a truth nonetheless.
Now, you're speaking to an audience of Christians, Endy, so could you just speak to why it is important for us as Christians to remember the Pontian Genocide, and how would you encourage people to commemorate Pontian Genocide Remembrance Day?
Well, first of all, try to learn just a little bit more. I'll start with why it's important. We're talking about a genocide in an area that Christianity starts spreading. These are the historic homelands of Christianity. But there are effects today. We've seen that every country in the Eastern Mediterranean, in the greater Middle East, where the Christian presence has been repressed, oppressed, and wiped out, has become a more dangerous country. I can draw a straight line from these genocides to the genocides that ISIS committed against Christians over the last decade. So it's important for us to know what happened. The famous quote, "Those who do not know their history are bound to repeat it." Mm-hmm. And as we talk about religious freedom, as we talk about human rights, human rights is now back at the center of American foreign policy. Well, human rights really many times start with religious rights. Religious minorities in almost every country are the canaries in the coal mine. And now as people are worried about, what's happening to journalists and others in Turkey, it doesn't really surprise those of us who know what happened to Christian minorities over a century. So,
sorry to cut you off. We're out of time, but we've been talking to Endy Zemenides, and you can find his work at HellenicLeaders.com to get more information about this genocide we've been discussing today. Endy, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Annie. Have a great